You come to a college where you have limitless opportunities to spend money in so many different ways.
Food, gas, utilities,
different things that you want to join and do. I just want to just swipe. It's okay. I'm going to make the money back later. No, it goes by super fast.
Something that I wish that I knew before coming off to school is how important it is to manage your finances.
I wish I would have been told to start a budget, even if it's minute things.
I just kind of saved and then just kind of spent when I felt like it. There wasn't really a clear thought process of, what's coming in, what's going out. In retrospect, I wish it was a little bit more intentional on that front.
I think it's important to learn from other people such as your parents, mentors, coaches, different people in your community like that can really provide experience and knowledge that can help you to better your financial goals.
Good afternoon and welcome to Regions Extra Credit College Life Money Skills event. So my name is Tandy Hayes and I will be your host MC for this afternoon. And my job is really just to keep things moving, right? Make sure you have the information that you need to know, but most importantly, to give away some prizes. Who's excited about prizes, right? All right, good, thank you. So before we get started, I want to do a couple of shout outs. I know we have a watch party that's happening at Osborne High School over in Marietta, Georgia. We've got a group of students from Rickards High School down in Tallahassee, Florida, and we've got some students in the room from Hewitt-Trussville just outside of here in Birmingham. So during our time together today, you're going to hear from 4 experts with our panel. And you're going to have an opportunity to submit some questions to them, as we promised, to give you that time to interact. And right now on the screen, you should see a QR code. Go ahead and take out your phone, scan that QR code so you can submit those questions, and please feel free to submit them the entire time, right? If somebody says something up here as one of our panelists, you got a question about it, go ahead and put that in. And at the end of our time, we're going to bring all of our panelists back on stage, and we'll address those questions that you put in through our time together. So the gift cards that we're going to give away, right? So I'll give them away during the different parts of our time between presentations. And one thing I need you to know is at the end of today, we're going to ask you to please be on the lookout. If you're out in virtual land, if you win a prize, we're going to need you to get an email and verify that we have the right shipping address because we want to send you the right card. All right, so I think that's all you need to know for now. Yep, I've covered everything. So please help me welcome to the stage the head of Regions Retail Banking, Mr. John Jordan.
Thank you all. Well, welcome to our Extra Credit event. We're so glad to see you all here in the room, and everyone who is with us virtually, welcome. Research tells us that financial planning and really having a budget, financial education in general, is something that we lack across the board, across this country, and certainly across our footprint. As a person who has 4 kids, 2 of them in college, 1 in high school, 1 in middle school, I can tell you for our family, this is a constant front page news item for us to be talking about. And as I look in the parents in the room and the kids in the room, I know that there's questions about how do you apply for college? When do you start saving for college? Once you get there, how do you budget? How do you protect yourself from online scammers and fraud? What do you do when you graduate to really take the best first steps to really have a successful financial life? All of those things are daily conversations within my household. And I know that those questions are hard to face, but the main thing that I would share with you today, the encouragement I would give you, is it starts with a plan. And at Regions Bank, really, our focus is to help everyone have a plan. Everyone in the top 1%, the top 5%, they all have financial plans. At Regions, we want everyone to have plans, whether you're a student starting out or you're a family thinking about what the best way to save for your financial goals are. You may have seen the commercials in some of the SEC games where we talk about this green print plan. It's something that we do for everyone who comes into our branches if we possibly can. And we're blessed within our footprint. We have thousands of colleges and universities. We have 300 branches within 2 miles of a college and university. We have 2,000 ATMs as well. So it's a big part of our business to talk to students and to work with families as they plan for their financial future. And so when you're thinking about today for your student and for your life, think about savings, think about budgeting, think about establishing and protecting credit. Think about protecting yourself from online scammers. And I was just in Oxford, Mississippi last week, and I had a chance to talk to a lot of young students as they were talking about how do they build their goals? What is the first step that they need to think about? And we spend a lot of time just going through the basics of making a budget. And like I said, for my kids, it's harder than you think. You think growing up in a house of a banker, everyone would know how to do a financial budget. It's not so easy, and I can relate to each of you parents in the room. It's hard to have those conversations until they're in it, until it's urgent for them. And so sitting down with these college juniors and seniors and going through and looking at what does it take to do a budget in this day and age when things are so easy to spend. You've got a credit card or a debit card on your phone. Just with a click of a button, you can spend money. It goes a lot faster than it used to. And so spending time with them, we got a chance to listen to them. They left and they set up appointments to have green print conversations, set up a plan, and gave themselves confidence to step into the future. So that's what today is all about. Today is all about giving you confidence. And what's the best next step? We've got some great speakers here today to talk to you. We're going to have some question and answer time, and then we'll have follow-up time to set up green print appointments to talk to each one of you to help you set up a plan. You don't have to be a customer. Anybody in this room, anybody online can have that kind of confidence with a plan. So Tandy, I'm going to turn it back to you and let the event get going.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. So let's bring up our first panelist. And so joining us first this afternoon is Christy Hudgens. Christy is the University of Alabama's regional recruiter for Jefferson and Walker counties here in Alabama. And Christy has 13 years of experience with the Office of Admissions and Scholarships at Alabama. So she lives locally here in Birmingham and Vestavia with her husband, 2 children, and most importantly, her golden retriever, Murphy, right?
Important, yes.
So Christy, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
So let's jump right in.
Yes.
So for the first question we have, when considering which school they want to attend, what should students do first before applying?
Okay. So just like John said a minute ago regarding his own children, I have a daughter this year that's a high school senior as well, and I am the worst as far as all this college stuff is concerned. She told me the other night, she said, how come whenever I ask you a question, you just tell me to ask you later? And so, so going back to starting this whole process off, your senior year's too late to be starting this process. My best advice would be there are people like me, recruiters, at every college. We are broken up into certain territories. I just so happen to have all of the high schools in Jefferson County and Walker County. But there are people like me everywhere, every state with every college. So first and foremost, I would definitely tell you, hey, make contact with your recruiter because we can help you along the way. If we don't know the answers, we can get you in touch with the person on our campus that does have the answers to your questions. But most importantly, do a campus tour. Do a campus visit, and do that visit through your admissions office, not just on a Saturday when you might be meandering through town for a football game. Do that through the admissions office and ask for me on your campus, wherever you're interested, to help you. For example, I'm doing a lot of that right now for current high school juniors, setting up campus visits for them. They will book their tour and then contact me. And I will help them set up departmental visits, such as if you're interested in the College of Business, set you up with a professor in business, so on and so forth. So I would say that that is going to be the best thing for you to do, is to actually tour the campuses that you're interested in. If you're interested in 5, 6, 7 different campuses, tour them all. I promise you, once you've completed your tours, you will know, okay, yes, I would absolutely love to be on this campus every single day, or no, I would die before I would have to go to school there. So you can eliminate some of those pretty much right off the bat just by doing your campus tour. So therefore, when you start the application process during your senior year, you are not applying to 10 different schools, which will therefore also rack up application fees that go along with that.
So, all right, so they've done all that, right? They've done their tours, they've narrowed it down. Obviously, application comes with some requirements.
Yes.
So what are the things that our students should know about application requirements?
So in this day and age, since 2020, since COVID, a lot of colleges made a lot of different changes as far as admissions process and things that are required to meet the requirements to be admissible to their institutions. One of those being, I would say probably the biggest one, is test optional. There are a lot of schools now that are not requiring a test score for admission to their university. So I would say you need to look at, do they require a test score? If so, what is the test score that I am going to need to be admissible? What curriculum are they going to require? For example, a school such as Duke University, Vanderbilt, they are going to require a very high curriculum from your high school that you have attended. So lots of AP classes, so on and so forth. So if that's not the route that you have chosen as far as your high school curriculum is concerned, that might not be some of the places that you want to apply. So those are definitely things that you need to look at, requirements. You need to look at the test requirements, and we are going to need a transcript regardless of how you apply from your high school, so we can see your academic record and your GPA, so on and so forth.
So, Christy, they've done the tour, right? They've picked those schools. They understand the requirements. What are the steps they need to understand when it comes to the actual application process?
Okay, so first and foremost, it's very important that you all realize every college or university has a completely different application, admission, scholarship process. All the deadlines completely different. So if you're applying to multiple schools, my advice would be to get a calendar, and all your calendar is going to be is markings of deadlines. I would color code them to your school. Obviously, Alabama, you would use red. That other school, you would use orange. So I would definitely, that just makes things easier so you can see it in front of you, because deadlines are hard deadlines with colleges. It's not going to be where your counselor can contact us and say, hey, I'm sorry, Jimmy was out a couple days, he missed this. Deadlines are of utmost importance. There are going to be different types of admissions criteria, such as am I on a rolling admissions? Am I going to apply and find out in 2 weeks? Or am I going to have to wait until January? So there's many different things throughout the process that are going to be different at all the colleges. But if I can't say it enough, deadlines. Just make sure that you are meeting those deadlines.
All right, thank you, Christy. So I picked the school, I understand the process, I've now applied, maybe I got accepted. Outside of tuition, what are all the other costs that students and families need to consider in making that trek?
So, and if you can see on the screen here, there are a few websites. They're obviously University of Alabama, because that's what I'm familiar with. But I would encourage you, even if you are not thinking of the University of Alabama, at least look at these websites, just because they're in front of you, to give you an idea of things that you should be looking at. There's obviously the campus tour registration, the portal there where you can register for a tour. But the cost of attendance, to answer your question, Tandy, is we have several direct costs, which are going to be your tuition, that's going to be your housing, because at the University of Alabama, we do require our freshmen to live on campus. Again, will be different at every college or university, and then as well as your meal plans. So those are three things for sure that we like to call direct costs. Indirect costs are things such as your parking permit, football tickets, things of that nature. Those are the indirect costs, but and also note too, in-state versus out-of-state. Usually in-state tuition is going to be much more affordable for you. Out-of-state tuition is going to usually be about triple what your in-state tuition and costs are going to be. And then, as you all know, any private colleges or university will be the same price regardless of your location.
Okay. So, Christy, in wrapping up our time together, with everything that we've talked about, what's that one thing that students should really keep in mind?
Oh, I guess I would go with just because you've already applied and been accepted doesn't mean that you can go on cruise control your senior year. I get that question a lot. Hey, I'm not doing really good in calculus right now. Are you going to look at that on my final high school transcript? So just make sure that you are still, keeping up with studying. And I know seniors, especially this time of year, I have one at my house who really just prefer not to go to school at this point. So I get that. Also, just certain things like, how many of you would know how to wash clothes? I don't think my daughter would know how to wash laundry. So, I know she wouldn't know how to, because she doesn't do any at my house anyway. So little things like that, just like, hey, let's start working towards, like you're actually an adult now and have to do things on your own. So, and just really familiarizing yourself with campus. And if that's just, you've already done a campus tour, but hey, I'd like to just go and look around one day on my own. And most colleges are going to also have like preview type days. Or admitted student days. Those are really good for students who have made up their mind and know where they want to go.
Awesome. Well, Christy, thank you for
Yes.
some amazing information, right?
Yes.
And guys, I know we've got resources on the screen. We're going to send an email out afterwards that'll have all these links for you. So I saw a lot of people writing notes. I'm probably out in virtual world. You're doing the same thing. We're going to send these to you, okay? But Christy, thank you so much.
Yes.
Amazing information, and we'll
Thank
see you
you.
back for Q&A in a few
Thank
minutes.
you.
All right. So thank you. At this time, let's bring up our next panelist, Ms. Kelly Savoy. And Kelly is the Director, Assistant Region Head for the South for Fannie Mae. And she has 26 years of building confidence with K through 12 schools and universities. throughout the South. Her goal has always been to build confidence with families and students by helping them break down the vast amount of information available and navigate the process in order to find the ways to pay for college, right? So Kelly, we had them answer a question a little earlier when we talked about cost, right? So let's bring up that slide and look at how people felt about college expense. All right, so do you know how you're going to pay for college? We've got sort of won the gamut, right, at 47%. We had a definite yes of 23, and we had not a clue on 30%. So you're going to help us out with that, right?
Absolutely.
So let's jump into our first question. So Kelly, knowing how expensive college is today, what financial assistance opportunities are available to help students pay for college?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me today. So there are several resources out there for us, and that's a question that I get asked a lot, is there's not enough resources. There are several resources. First and foremost, one of the most important things is the FAFSA. And if you're a senior, absolutely make sure that you have that completed. Deadlines are approaching. In completing the FAFSA, that does open up that you will the ability for scholarships and grants, and that's the money you want to maximize, because that is free money that does not have to be paid back. So you really do want to make sure that we're maximizing that. After that, many schools do have payment plans, and there are also, completing the FAFSA will open up some loan options for you, and so there are a lot of options out there.
Okay. So Kelly, you mentioned FAFSA.
Yes.
And I know there's a lot of questions and confusion around FAFSA. So what do our students and parents alike need to know?
Okay. First of all, in financial aid, in colleges as a whole, we like acronyms. Right. So FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It does not cost anything to complete that. And so again, it's a very important thing. It's a student application. And completing it, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be able to send it to up to 20 schools. The school's going to get that, they're going to look at that, and that's how they're going to be able to tell, they might look at that and consider it for any scholarships. So again, look at their website and know if they're going to need that. But that also, the first thing that's going to look for to see if you're eligible for the federal Pell Grant. That's over $7,000. It's a grant, so money that does not have to be paid back. After that, it will look to see if you're eligible for, if you still have need, there is the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. Again, it's a grant, so it's free money that does not have to be paid back. And that can be up to another $2,000. So the money's adding up there for money that does not have to be paid back. Then we've also got the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And those loans are only in the student's name, okay? And the difference between them, they both have the same interest rate, they both are only for the student. They do have aggregate limits, and they also have limits each year. So it ranges anywhere from $5,500 to $7,500. And the difference between a subsidized and an subsidized is need-based. It's going to look and make sure that you have financial need, and with that, the interest is paid for you while you're in school. The federal government pays that interest. The unsubsidized, virtually 99% of people are going to be eligible for it, and the only difference is yes, you're going to be responsible for that.
Okay. So lots of options, like you said, right?
Yes.
So let's shift and talk about non-institutional scholarships and grants. What's out there and how can they find that?
My favorite subject. There are so many scholarships out there, and that scholarships are probably one of the most misunderstood pieces of information out there. Most people think that you have to be that star athlete or the straight A student to get a scholarship. Not the case. There are scholarships for that, absolutely, but there are scholarships for so much more. And so, really look broadly. Your colleges have individual scholarships, and so make sure you're looking at those. States have scholarships. The state of Alabama has a scholarship through our treasurer's office. Also, employers. Employers
Regents has let me make sure I get it right, the Writing Forward Scholarship, and it's a quarterly scholarship. So it really is, look locally, talk to family members, talk to their employers. There are also what's called scholarship search tools. And I like to say those are tools that make the world a little bit smaller. They're aggregators of scholarships, and so this is a place where you can go. You're not going out and just searching for scholarships and wondering what's going to come up. These tools, Sallie Mae has one. These tools, you go. The great thing about them is there's no cost. Again, you should never pay for a scholarship to apply for a scholarship, and these tools we vet them. So before a company like Sallie Mae will put it in there, we vet them. We make sure that people are winning them each year, as well as where you're putting your information is a safe and reliable place. So it's a great place to make the world a little bit smaller.
All right, thank you, Kelly. So there's one other resource we've not talked about, and that's student loans. So when we think about student loans, how would you define a student loan, and then talk a little bit about the obligations that come along with that loan?
Okay. Yes, so student loans, that's kind of like the word budget, right? But borrowing for education, student loans, it is okay to borrow for education. You just want to borrow responsibly. And some of you are going to sit here and say, well, what does that mean? I know my own kids sit there and say, what is responsible borrowing? Borrow what you need, not just what you think is being offered or what you want. And so that is the biggest thing right there. And again, make sure you know what you're looking for. I mentioned before, you have the direct, subsidized, and unsubsidized loans that will be offered to you, and they generally will offer you the max of those. And those are probably the first resources that a person should look at if they are borrowing. After that, in completing the FAFSA, your parents might also be offered a Parent Plus loan. These do have higher interest rates. That is only in the parent's name. There are also private education loans, which are loans that are offered by many of the major lenders. Sallie Mae is probably the largest of those. Compare your options. Look at a blended approach and make sure that you know what you're looking at.
So Kelly, you started with talking about that there are a lot of options, right? And they're out there, you just have to know where to find them. Mm-hmm. So what resources are available to help parents and students alike find the resources that you mentioned?
Yes, okay. And Sallie Mae has a listing of resources, going to salliemae.com, or we even do have a website that is just sally.com and nothing but helping you search for colleges, scholarships, and I would also tell you, as you enter into and look for your educational journey, studentaid.gov. That is a wonderful resource. It is where you will go to complete the FAFSA. And if you do borrow with the federal government, it will be a place you will go for the rest of your life in working for the rest of your journey in higher education and in working with some of your federal loans.
Kelly, thank you so much. Great information. Again, we'll see you a little bit back for the Q&A section.
Great.
So we want to bring up our third panelist this afternoon, and this is Jeff Taylor. And Jeff, if I get my cards right, Jeff is the head of Regions Commercial Fraud and Forensic, and he and his team are consistently focused on and researching and promoting fraud prevention through awareness and education with clients of ours across our 15 states. In addition, Jeff is frequently cited by news outlets on how businesses and individual consumers can help protect their accounts and avoid falling victim to scams. So welcome, Jeff. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for being here and for having this opportunity today. If you have been a victim of fraud, thank you. If you've been a victim of fraud or know someone who has been a victim of a fraud or scam, raise your hand for me. Yep, that's just about right. So most industry surveys indicate that 30% of the U.S. population has either been a victim of fraud or knows someone in their family who's been a victim of fraud. In fact, just yesterday, the Internet Crime and Complaint Center is the central reporting agency for internet crime. It's managed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Yesterday, they came out with their 2024 report of activity. They do this every year. As a matter of fact, this is the 25th year that the Internet Crime and Complaint Center has produced this report. So I want to make sure to get this right. So for individuals who are 29 years old and under, there were 71,000 complaints filed with the Internet Crime and Complaint Center last year, representing $540 million in losses. For individuals that are 20 years and old or younger, there were 18,000 complaints representing over $22 million. So this fraud industry that we're seeing in the United States, billions of dollars being lost every year as a result of fraud. So we know fraud and scams are not going away. We know people who have been victimized, and we know how those things are occurring. And so the best thing that we can do, or one of the important things that we can do around protecting our finances, is understanding these different fraud attack vectors, how this happens, and how we might be able to protect ourselves. So the first thing we're going to look at are these scams present themselves in so many different ways. There's payment fraud. There's the scam that entices you to pay someone who you thought was your friend, but turns out they were not your friend. There's application fraud that might involve credit card applications or housing applications or even scholarships, where individuals might entice you to log into a website that's not the official scholarship website, and one that you would then provide your personal information and your financial information. There are the text and phone scams. How many people have gotten the toll road scam, that text message? See, that's going around. And so those kinds, using text messages or telephone voicemail messages to convince you to give up some of your information. And then there's email account compromise, where the fraudster will use a spoofed email address, one that looks kind of like your friend, or it looks like the person that you want to pay, but they've transposed a letter or they've done something different with that email address to make it look like it is the individual, the legitimate individual, when it's actually the fraudster who's behind that email. Then, of course, there are online purchases, the scams around items that you may purchase online that look to be legitimate. The website looks to be legitimate, but when you go and you give them your credit card information, guess what? That item never shows up. And when you try to attempt to contact the merchant or the person that you purchased that item from, if it was on one of those sites like that, I don't want to indict any particular one, but one of those sites that you might go to, a marketplace kind of site where an individual is selling a piece of property or some item, they may or may not be legitimate. And then the scams involving identity theft. And then one that's really important is mule account recruitment. And this is where the fraudster will convince you to participate in what's actually money laundering. And it's the ability for you to either make a deposit or process a payment for someone that you don't know. So any one of these scams or any combination of these scams can be devastating to your finances and can actually be devastating to the finances of your parent or guardian if your accounts are tied to them. So in the time that we've got today, one of the things I want to talk about are these 4 truths to remember about scams. Number 1 is anyone can be a victim. The fraudsters don't care at all about your age, your financial capability, your checking account balance. All they want to know is how much money can I steal from this person. So they have absolutely no concerns about who you are, where you live, or any of that information. The second part of that is no one ever expects to be a victim. Unfortunately, the fraudsters, because they are using this information and using various information to try to convince you to be a part, most people think, oh gosh, I'm too young, or I don't have enough money, or I don't live in an area that is going to be, that someone's going to target, that a fraudster is going to target. It's just not true. They are completely indiscriminate and don't care about that at all. The second thing is make sure that you protect your data. You never want to provide your Social Security number without a valid reason. Make sure that you guard that information carefully. Also make sure that you investigate any request for your personal information. So if someone calls you on the phone and leaves a voicemail and asks you to give them information, don't give it to them. Make sure that you are validating that request and that the person that is asking for that information is legitimate. And then never agree to process deposits or payments for someone else. It's just not a good idea. Even if you know them, it's a risky situation. If you don't know them, it's extremely risky and is something that you definitely want to avoid. Next, you want to develop what we call a cyber secure mindset. You want to use strong passwords or passphrases with your accounts that you are logging into. Never use the same password for your social media account for your online banking account. Because if in fact that social media platform was ever compromised, then the fraudsters got that information that you use and be able to then log into your, potentially log into your online banking platform. So you want to make sure that you're not crossing those passwords across multiple platforms. You think about all the data breaches that are announced just about weekly. All of that information is in the hands of the fraudsters, or it's for sale on the dark web. And they'll use that information to try to create a synthetic identity or to pose as you in applications for credit cards or other information where they can monetize the end result. You want to definitely be cautious when you are using unsecured Wi-Fi. You know, so how often do we go to a coffee shop and we pop open our device or open our device and then just touch the button to connect to their Wi-Fi? Make sure that the Wi-Fi that you're using is secured with a password. Oftentimes what fraudsters will do is they will set up a spoofed Wi-Fi address. So they'll put a Wi-Fi that's very similar to the one that you're going to log into, doesn't require a password, and instead of logging into the coffee shop's Wi-Fi, you're logging into the one that the fraudster controls. And so if you go online and make a purchase, guess what? They've got your credit card number now because they're capturing all of that information. And always be careful what you post on social media. For those of you that are going to be attending college, don't ever post your dorm room, your address, your telephone number on your social media account, because fraudsters troll those platforms to gather information about you that they can then use to impersonate you. So you never want to put that kind of personal information on social media. Lastly, if it sounds too good to be true, guess what? It probably is. So the best deals are not always the best deals. You want to make sure that you're using a reputable source when you order your books, when you look for housing, rental property, supplies, school supplies, all those different things. Make sure that that is a legitimate site that you're on when you're ordering those items, because oftentimes the item doesn't exist, or all the fraudsters trying to do, again, is capture your payment information. And then you want to make sure that you always use a credit card for online purchases. It's really important that you do that and make sure that you are protecting those payment sources and the information that you have. But one of the things that's interesting is that when you go to the gas pump, you know, oftentimes we'll use our debit card or credit card at the gas pump. Well, make sure that you are using the inside pumps. Don't use the ones on the outside, because often the fraudsters will put skimming devices on those outside pumps because they're outside of the view of the people that are working in the store or the security cameras in the store. And they'll put those skimming devices on those pumps so that when you put your card in there, it's capturing the information that's on the mag stripe of that card. So make sure that you're using the ones on the inside. So, and lastly is, if you're ever asked, this is a callback control that we suggest mostly to our commercial clients, but it really applies to anyone. If you're ever asked to make a payment on behalf of someone, or make a payment, or make a change to an existing payment, you want to make sure that you stop your process and pick up the phone and call the person that is making the request and verify with them and confirm with them that this request is legitimate. You don't want to call the number in the email or call the number in the text message, but call them at a number that you know and confirm that that request is legitimate. So like others, there are some websites that will be provided to you. These are federal, most of these are federal government websites that you can go to help with different types of explanations around scams and fraud. And then of course there are the 3 region sites that we want to make sure to provide for you that have more information. As I said, fraud's not going away anytime soon, and it's always going to be in your best interest to protect your finances by being aware of these situations and understanding how you can protect yourself. Thank you, Tandy.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. So give Jeff a round of applause. All right, so our next panelist, our next expert is Angela Aaron, and Angela is a dedicated financial wellness next step educator here at Regions Bank, where she leverages her extensive expertise and knowledge and manages relationships to empower clients with tools and resources needed to achieve their financial goals. So welcome, Angela, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tandy, and hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today to share with you some helpful money skills and on how you can save while you're in college. Now let's turn to our first poll. We asked you some questions at the beginning. How are you feeling about your finances going into college? Now, many of you might be excited, right? Or maybe not. Or maybe you're feeling unsure. Or maybe it's just you're overwhelmed. Know that you're not alone. As someone who graduated at 17, I had all of these feelings, and I didn't know how to manage money. So that's why we wanted to unlock some of that power today and discuss how budgeting and savings is going to be helpful to you. So whether you're going to be working, maybe you're going to be working or receiving financial aid, or maybe you're going to get family contributions, knowing how to manage it is going to be your superpower. So let's look at how you're going to be spending. How are you currently spending? So I want to look at our second poll. So many of you said that you're spending on food, clothes, all of the fun stuff, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that going into college, your expenses are going to change. And you need to be able to kind of decipher and prioritize what's important, right? So that new video game, that's a want. Now having gas for your car so you can get to work, that's a need. And you are going to be in charge. I like to say you're going to be the CEO of your finances, so congratulations, you're getting a job. You're going to have to know how to manage. So I want to look at our last poll. How many of you have had that budget conversation? And if you haven't, that's okay. Because guess what? That's my first tip, is to create a budget for yourself. That's going to help you prioritize those needs over wants, right? So let's talk about how a budget can be helpful. I know it's boring, right? It's okay. We're going to simplify it. We're going to start by looking at our cash flow. Our cash flow, that's our money that we have coming in versus our money that we have going out. Now, our money coming in, remember, that can come from working, financial aid, and from family contributions. And then we have our money that's going out. This is where we get some control. We're going to start with our fixed expenses. Those don't change from month to month. So our housing expenses, our car insurance, those things stay the same. Now, variable expenses, this is where we are in charge. How much you're spending on food, gas, clothes. You're going to prioritize that. Now, to make sure that your budget is working, you want to calculate your money that's going out. That's that fixed expense and the variable expense. Then you're going to subtract it from your income that you have coming in. And that's going to tell us whether you have a positive cash flow, because that's the goal. Now, in this example, we have a positive cash flow of $200. So I kind of just want to look over at our next thing. What do you think we should do with that $200? We're going to spend it on our wants. You got it. We're going to talk about savings. Now, I know savings is boring, but let me tell you, think of it as planting a small seed for yourself. or if we can get there. I like to call it the future you account. So we know that as college students, you might spend all of your money on once, but I want you to consider putting some of that money aside into a savings account because you're gonna have things that come up. Now I want you to learn from my lessons. Do not, if you're running late for class, make sure you park in the right spot because your car will get towed. I know from experience. And then you gotta watch your speed because you can get a speeding ticket. And that's like the second highest expense for college students, by the way. And then lastly, you know your car may break down. So having that extra positive $200, placing it in a savings account, that's gonna help you when those things arise. So you don't have to call back home and say, hey, I need extra money for these things. And other ways to save, and this is a big one, Christy alluded to it earlier, is knowing your meal plan. You need to know your daily allowance, how many meals that you get to allotted every day, and then you also need to know who accepts your meal plan. That means all of the restaurants and eateries that you can go to. And you might even have some extra cash in between classes to pick up some snacks. Knowing this is going to save you a lot of money. And I know because the first few months of college, I did not know how my meal plan worked. And so my mom called me up and she said, if you don't find a way to cut back on your expenses, guess what? You coming back home. And I didn't want to come back home. I was enjoying college. I had my freedom. So I had figured out budgeting. Budgeting is not about saying no to everything. It's about being smart with your choices so that you can enjoy life without going broke. So lastly, this is my final tip for everyone, and that's talk about it. Talk about your expenses with your parents, your guardians, a trusted adult, or a banker about money. I'm going to tell you, if you're feeling unsure or if you are overwhelmed, Regions is here for you. We have something called a student green print where you can have a one-on-one conversation. John talked about it earlier. And that's going to help you create a plan and put that plan into action. Now, as students, I know that you're always going to be learning, but it's important to budget wisely, save smartly, remember about fraud, and to talk to experts. Continue to talk to your parents and a banker about money. It's going to be very helpful right now while you're in college and beyond. So thank you, and back to you, Tandy.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we're going to bring back our panelists to do the Q&A session, the questions that you've submitted along the way. But before we do that, check this out.
If I could give my younger self one piece about managing finances, it would be to start early.
Get a job and save your money from your job.
Looking toward the future and make like good decisions.
Just setting a little here and there aside for the future.
Start now saving. Look, just put money back in your account.
Save it. Be a little tightwad.
Save for a rainy day.
Save your money. Please save your money.
All right, so welcome back, and we're going to jump right into our panel discussion. And so we've got a few questions that have come in along the way. And so, Christy, this one looks like it's for you. So what can I expect at orientation?
Okay, orientation. So that will be the summer before you are starting in the fall. A few things that you should expect. I'm getting a lot of these questions right now. Should my parent go with me? I would say yes, because you're going to split up at orientation. Your parent is going to go to meetings about things that they're concerned about, like how to pay for what we're doing. You know, safety, different things like payment plans. What payment plan should I choose? And also too, last but not least, the last thing that you're going to do on orientation on most campuses, can't speak for everybody, but I know at ours, you're going to choose your classes for the fall. So that is very important. And that is a requirement of going to college, is you do have to attend orientation.
All right, thank you, Christy. So Jeff, this one's for you. What can I do to better protect myself from scammers, and what's my first step if I feel I've been scammed?
I'd say the first step is talk to your parents.
Okay.
Make sure you let them know that that something like that's happened. Next, make sure that you contact your financial institution. There are folks there that can help you navigate that process, and then I think lastly, report to ic3.gov. Make sure that you go to that website, let federal law enforcement know about the situation, and as far as protecting yourself, Tandy, I think being aware of attending conversations like this, being aware of the different fraud attack vectors, and just be cautious, be understanding that these folks are out to get your money, and make sure that you are thinking about that and protecting yourself. Don't click on a link that is in an email or things that you don't know that are legitimate.
Okay, all right, thank you, Jeff. So John, I'm gonna pass this one over to you. You mentioned earlier you've got student-age children, right? And so what's the one piece of financial advice do you wish you had been given or that you've had to learn in preparing for your students for college?
It's not necessarily financial advice specifically, but I would say the most important advice is just communication to each other and really being patient with one another. This experience for me, and I think for everybody, going to college, it's so different now than when I was applying for college many, many, many years ago. And so coming alongside my children and just having conversations with them, whether it be about budgeting or applying or writing essays or taking the ACT or whatever it might be, it can get a little tense in the household. So I would say just having open dialogue about all of these topics, including financial wellness and making sure that they're having good habits and protecting themselves against fraud and other dangers is the most important thing, I think, in our household.
Okay, all right, thank you, John. All right, so moving around the panel, Angela, I'm coming to you next. So budgeting was mentioned, but how do I actually start my budget process?
I always tell people, start with talking to your parents about your income that you're going to have coming in and then your expenses. Thing about Regions, we have a lot of tools that can help you digitally because you're going to be on the go to keep up with your tracking and to send you alerts when you're getting close with the spending.
Okay, thank you, Angela. All right, so let's see. Kelly, this one's for you. I applied for scholarships and grants, but it's still not enough. What other options do I have?
Yeah, great. Certainly mentioned payment plans. Most schools do have payment plans available, as well as do look at and consider the loans that are being offered, your direct subsidized, unsubsidized, and really compare. Take the time to give yourself the opportunity to compare what is best for your family situation.
Okay. All right. Jeff, I'm coming back over to you. This is about multi-factor authentication. So it wasn't mentioned, so is it really necessary?
Absolutely. I think any time that your device provides you with biometric capability, facial ID or your thumbprint, make sure that you're using that on the device because you can't replicate those things. A fraudster, if they steal your device or if they somehow compromise your device, they can't replicate that and they can't get to then the information that you store on your phone or your iPad.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeff. So, Angela, I'm going to come back over to you. I feel seen with this question. I worked full-time in college, right? And even if I work or have family contributions, if I still don't have any extra money to save, what should I do?
Just think about where you're currently spending your money. Now, most of us, I'm going to talk about myself. Hey, what if you can give up a trip to Starbucks? That's $10. And by the end of the year, that's $520 that we can put in that savings account so that you can cover those expenses that might come up.
All right. Thank you, Angela. All right, let's see. Kelly, I think this one's going to be for you. How do I determine which financial offer is best for me?
Good question. It is something to be aware of, that the financial aid offers that you get from the colleges, no two are going to be alike. So really take the time to compare them and make sure that you understand what they are saying. They will include, some of them might include the Parent Plus loan as within the offer, and some might have it just as a resource. So make sure you know that because you want to give yourself the opportunity to figure out, is that the right option for our family situation?
All right. Okay, thank you, Kelly. So, Christy, I'm going to come over to you. What are the things I need to do over the summer to get ready for fall?
getting a lot of that right now. That can range from what immunizations does my college or university require for me to attend there. A lot of students are taking maybe an English or a math course at a local junior college. That's something that I think would probably be a really good idea. As well as things like you have to have your student identification card before you go. At the University of Alabama, you have to have your placement tests for math or your foreign language, whichever it is that you may require, prior to your orientation on campus done a week prior to that. So, but again, these things will be communicated very heavily to you from institutions via email. So I would just say, even if you think, I've done everything, I've gone to orientation, I've done this, that, and the other, still check your email on a daily basis, because we will be sending information to you up until the day you begin.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Y'all might have to bounce in between this one, you and Kelly, Christy. When should a student start applying for college? Just senior year or before? And do state scholarships require you to attend an in-state college or university? That was all together.
Okay. I'll go with that first part.
Okay.
You cannot apply to a college or university until you have completed your junior year. So you're going to be sending your transcript for us to be evaluating you on with 6 semesters worth of grades. So that is going to be 2 freshmen, 2 sophomore, 2 junior. And so for us, we open our application around August 1. There's some schools that may be September, October, November. Again, every school is going to have a different process, so you just need to do your research and figure out when the application is going to open. But yes, you cannot do that until you have completed your junior year.
Okay.
State scholarships. Most state scholarships, yes, they will require you to stay within the state, but that is a good point to make sure that you're looking at what are the requirements of that scholarship, because some scholarships are transferable outside, not necessarily your state, because they're giving it to try to keep you in state, which isn't a bad thing, that's a good thing. And so just make sure that you're looking at what those requirements are.
All right, thank you, Kelly, and I've got one more for you. So, when we look at FAFSA, is it driven by my income or my family's income?
It is, if you are an independent student, it is going to look at your family's income. And it looks at the prior year. So if you're a senior this year, you're completing it. They're looking at your 23 the family's 23 tax information.
All right, so some great information. Thank you all for submitting your questions. I hope we've got all those answered for you. And we got one more, John, and I'm going to come to you. My student only wants to bank using a Cash App. What do I tell them?
Don't do that.
I'll second that.
All right.
No, I mean, I think that there's certainly apps out there that everyone's using, Venmo or Cash App or whatever it might be. But I think that when you really think about the safety and security and the ability to plan the resources around financial education, that working with a large financial institution, a bank, is going to be much more beneficial for the long haul, because they can come alongside you from the point you start all the way till when you retire.
All right, thank you, John. Well, so I hope that our panelists and the discussions we've had today have really helped you better understand the assignment, right? And really gain that extra credit that we came here to find out about. So the other thing is, I hope you're leaving with questions answered, right? With some more tools and resources to really help you build that confidence as you continue that path forward, right, in going into college. So as you head out, as you heard each of our experts talk about, the time to start is now, right? You have to start now. And it's really about having conversations, right? Whether with your parents, whether with your high school counselor, whether with your college and university recruiters, or even a banker, right? It's all about starting that conversation and having it now. And as just a reminder, please be on the lookout for emails from the event today. We're sending you the tools and resources, all the links that you saw during our presenters' presentations. But also for those of you out in virtual world who had a prize, you'll get a separate email where we're just going to be confirming we have the right email, the right mailing address to send your prize to. So just know that from Regions, if we can ever help you, just simply stop by one of our branches out in the market and talk to one of our bankers. So thank y'all for being here. I hope y'all had a great afternoon, and we'll see you later. Have a good night.